My ex teamed up with my own family to humiliate me when I was struggling and had nothing. Now that I'm finally successful, they came crawling back begging for help. But I made sure they got exactly the brutal ending they deserved. I am Ethan, a 29-year-old man, and my employment is primarily the night shift at a local quick-stop service station. My duties involve processing fuel sales, distributing lottery tickets, and managing interactions with intoxicated individuals in the early hours of the morning. It is the typical routine, far from an aspirational career, at least in the eyes of my relatives. 5 years prior, my parents tragically perished in an automobile accident. The event was entirely unforeseen and profoundly impacted me for a considerable period. They bequeathed their residence and a sum of savings, which were subsequently placed into a trust. Their legal counsel established this arrangement, and I assumed responsibility for its oversight. For years, I have utilized these resources to assist my extended family, my Aunt Diane, 52, my Uncle Greg, 54, and my cousins Tyler, 27, and Jason, 25. They genuinely believe they are enjoying a prosperous existence through their own means. This is not the case. I cover 70% of Diane and Greg's mortgage. Their extravagant holidays are largely financed by me, and the vehicles they flaunt? The funds originate from me. They operate under the misconception that these benefits stem from a governmental aid initiative for families affected by accidents. I never corrected their misapprehension, as, quite frankly, I found myself indifferent. I operate a dilapidated 2009 Honda that vibrates noticeably when it reaches 55 miles per hour. My living arrangement is a modest apartment, and my wardrobe consists of a rotation of 5 t-shirts. This is not due to financial hardship, but rather a disinclination to expend resources on frivolous items. My parents instilled in me sound financial principles, and I genuinely absorbed their lessons. A few weeks ago, we gathered for dinner at their residence, a substantial dwelling with an elaborate kitchen, essentially a testament to my financial contributions. I brought a homemade lasagna, a recipe passed down from my mother. Upon entering, the first utterance I overheard was Diane remarking to Jason, "At least someone in this family understands how to indulge themselves," accompanied by a pointed glance in my direction. Indeed, the meal commenced with Uncle Greg boasting about his golf club membership, which I funded. Tyler displayed his advanced smartwatch, also acquired with my money. Jason expressed enthusiasm for an upcoming concert, again, paid for by me. Then, Diane, in her characteristic passive-aggressive manner, inquired, "Ethan, dear, do you not consider it time to secure a more substantial occupation? Your father always maintained a dignified presentation." I remained impassive, simply taking another mouthful of the very lasagna she had praised moments earlier, presuming it to be a store-bought item, as her perception dictated I could not possibly afford quality ingredients. Subsequently, Jason, ever the favored offspring, interjected, "Not everyone can achieve great things, mother. Ethan is doing his best." "My apologies. I must have overlooked the fact that I have bankrolled your entire life, Jason." They then proceeded to discuss their impending excursion to Cancun, booked on a credit card that I am responsible for settling. They neglected to extend an invitation, which, truthfully, was a welcome relief. Greg, ever the sage, raised his glass, declaring, "Some of us labored diligently enough to merit fine possessions." "Right, brother." Then Diane delivered a particularly cutting remark. "You know, Ethan, you will always remain inconsequential, just as your father was before he experienced a stroke of luck." The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Even my cousins shifted uneasily. My father's success was not a matter of chance. He was astute, constructing everything from its foundational elements. Yet, these individuals were content to coast on his legacy while simultaneously disparaging me. I calmly finished my meal, rose, and stated I had an early shift. As I departed, I heard Diane's laughter. "Perhaps we should initiate a crowdfunding campaign for poor Ethan." This ignited a profound indignation within me, yet I exhibited no outward reaction, no tremor. They did not observe my momentary pause in the corridor, nor did they witness me retrieving my phone to access my banking application and initiate calls. The following morning, my strategy was set in motion. They remained entirely oblivious to the impending consequences. I had indulged their pretense for 5 years, but my tolerance had finally reached its limit. Then, an unforeseen event occurred. A few evenings later, I was at my workplace, still fueled by that quiet resentment, when a woman arrived at the service station at 11 p.m. with a deflated tire. She appeared stressed, but not helpless. This marked my initial encounter with Jessica. She possessed striking beauty, the kind that compels a second glance, yet she was also authentic, devoid of artificiality or a sense of entitlement. She was a kindergarten educator who cherished her profession and genuinely found amusement in my unrefined jokes. As I attended to her tire, we conversed, and for the first time in a considerable while, I genuinely savored a discussion where no one sought to impress me. Upon completion, she requested my contact information. I believe her interest was more pronounced. We began a relationship, and those 2 months proved to be the most fulfilling of my life. My family faded from my thoughts. Jessica was unlike anyone I had previously encountered. Material possessions held no appeal for her whatsoever. She operated an aged Corolla that made my Honda appear luxurious, resided in a compact apartment with a housemate to economize, and was entirely amenable to our inexpensive outings. We would procure $5 pizzas and view films at my residence, embark on hikes, or simply drive aimlessly, conversing for hours. For the first time since the passing of my parents, I felt truly seen, not merely as the gas station attendant everyone dismissed. Then, one Sunday, my family extended their customary dinner invitation. Typically, I would attend, endure their usual criticisms, and then depart. On this occasion, I arrived with Jessica. I forewarned her that my family could be somewhat overwhelming, but nothing could have prepared either of us for the unfolding events. The instant we entered, I observed Aunt Diane scrutinizing Jessica, assessing her unadorned sundress and unbranded handbag. Her countenance bore that strained smile I recognized as a harbinger of trouble. "Oh, Ethan, you neglected to inform us you were bringing a friend," Diane remarked, emphasizing the word friend, as if disbelieving anyone would associate with me romantically. Uncle Greg scarcely glanced up from his phone. "Hey, kid, there are additional chairs in the garage, a truly refined welcome." I retrieved the chairs while Jessica attempted to engage in conversation. Upon my return from the garage, Tyler had somehow positioned himself beside Jessica, displaying photographs of his recent Hawaiian vacation on his phone. "I visit twice annually," he was proclaiming. "Perhaps next time you could accompany more suitable company." He winked at her while casting a look my way. Jessica offered an uncomfortable laugh and subtly moved closer to me when I took my seat. I gently squeezed her hand beneath the table, silently conveying my apology for my family's conduct. Dinner commenced, and the situation only deteriorated. Each time Jessica mentioned an aspect of our relationship, my family discovered a means to portray me as pathetic. "Ethan took me to this charming little Italian establishment last weekend," Jessica offered, attempting to contribute to the conversation. "Oh, you mean Salvatore?" Diane scoffed. "That is where we take the children for birthday celebrations." I am astonished Ethan could even afford that on his gas station earnings. Jessica's smile faltered, and a pang struck my stomach. "Speaking of professions," Jason interjected, "did Ethan mention he has been at that gas station for, for years now? No ambition to advance?" Jessica defended me. "I believe it is commendable. He is dependable, and his patrons appreciate him." Tyler nearly expelled his drink in laughter. "Patrons appreciate him? You mean the truck drivers who purchase beef jerky at 2 in the morning? Hardly a career trajectory." I attempted to redirect the conversation, but they persisted. "So, Jessica," Uncle Greg stated, setting down his fork, "you instruct kindergarten. That is pleasant. Tyler here just achieved junior partner status at his legal firm, acquiring a new Mercedes to commemorate the occasion." Jessica appeared surprised. "Oh, congratulations, that is impressive." "What can I say?" Tyler smirked. "Some of us possess aspirations." The taunts continued, one after another. How my vehicle experienced 3 breakdowns last year, untrue. How I had yet to repay Uncle Greg for a loan, also untrue. He owed me money. How I likely could not afford to take Jessica anywhere pleasant for her birthday. Throughout it all, Jessica continued to squeeze my hand beneath the table, but I observed the alteration in her expression as she surveyed my family's dwelling, their attire, their perceived accomplishments, then redirected her gaze to me, the gas station failure. Then, the ultimate blow came from Aunt Diane. "Jessica, dear, you appear to be such a lovely girl, intelligent, attractive. What precisely do you perceive in our Ethan? You understand he will never be capable of providing you with the life you merit, do you not?" The table fell silent. Jessica's face flushed. "I believe Ethan has a great deal to offer," she stated softly, yet I detected it in her gaze, doubt. The seed my family had sown was already taking root. The remainder of the evening passed in a blur. We departed early, and the journey home was largely silent. Jessica claimed to have a headache and wished to return directly to her residence. I assented, but something felt amiss. She was not holding my hand as she typically did. Over the ensuing days, I observed the shift. Replies to texts became delayed, phone calls concluded more swiftly, and the customary morning and evening messages ceased. A week later, we dined at her apartment. Ordinarily, We would order inexpensive takeout, watch some trivial program, and simply converse. But that evening, she spoke very little. I caught her glancing at her phone every 5 minutes. Is something amiss? I inquired, endeavoring to keep my tone light. Just work matters, she murmured. She had never checked her phone with such frequency, and I was convinced it was not related to her employment. It was something else, though I could not pinpoint it. The subsequent weekend, she canceled our plans at the last moment, stating she was spending time with old acquaintances, with no invitation extended to me. A few days later, she sent me a text message. I believe we require some space, she conveyed. She needed time to ascertain her feelings, that she was uncertain if we desired the same future, that the dinner with my family had provided her with clarity. I continued to ponder. What could it be? That dinner had been an utter debacle. 2 weeks after our separation, I discovered the true reason for her need for space. I was browsing Instagram, not actively seeking anything, merely scrolling, and there it was, Jessica and Tyler at an upscale rooftop establishment, adorned with costly cocktails. His caption read, "Elevated her discernment in male companions." I saw red. I could have hurled my phone across the room or driven to their lavish dinner and overturned the table. Instead, I became quiet, for anger is boisterous, but retribution is silent. Apparently, Tyler had influenced her perspective. I later learned from Jason. Ethan is a commendable individual, but can he truly provide you with a life you desire? You deserve more than merely struggling to subsist. It is acceptable to seek stability. And Jessica accepted this narrative. That night, I sat in my apartment, fixated on that image for hours. 5 years of supporting these individuals, and this is their recompense? They did not merely ridicule me. They sought to divest me of everything I possessed. But Tyler believed he had triumphed. He had no inkling of what was to come. I made my resolution then and there. I contacted my financial advisor. Do you recall the strategy we discussed? It is time. He sounded apprehensive. Are you certain? Once we initiate this process. I am certain, I affirmed. They have appropriated everything else. They will not appropriate my dignity as well. This transcended merely Jessica. This concerned 5 years of indignity while I quietly sustained them. It was time to sever the connection. I sat down and meticulously reviewed every detail. I was aware the financial figures were unfavorable, but witnessing them all systematically presented, it was astonishing. Here is what my supposedly impoverished self had been subsidizing for all these years. Their 5-bedroom residence in a desirable neighborhood, which amounted to $1,196 each month, directly withdrawn from the trust one managed. They never once questioned the origin of these funds. Who, after all, believes the government simply dispenses free mortgage payments for years? Uncle Greg's cherished golf club membership incurred a monthly cost of $375. He referred to it as his networking expenses and presented it as a vital business investment. The man peddles insurance for a living. His only networking revolved around his golf swing. Then there was my cousin Tyler's 2022 Mercedes, a monthly payment of $785. Yes, that very vehicle he used to transport Jessica, I was financing it. And Jason's 2021 Audi cost me $675 monthly. He collided with a mailbox while texting last year, and I also covered the $3,200 repair bill. Every single one of their luxuries, every vacation, every designer accessory, every emergency requiring an immediate cash injection had all originated from me. And they possessed the audacity to disparage me, to mock my profession, my vehicle, my existence, while they paraded their achievements they had not even earned. That afternoon, I needed to deliver some insurance documents to their residence. No one was present, but I possessed a key. I am, after all, the emergency contact. As I placed the papers in Uncle Greg's study, I observed some printed emails on his desk. They were orchestrating an elaborate engagement celebration for Tyler and Jessica after merely 2 months of courtship. Everyone from their social circle was invited, with the exception of myself. The email correspondence was quite revealing. Diane had written that my presence was undesirable as Jessica wished to avoid any scene. Greg concurred, suggesting they simply inform me it was a modest gathering. Tyler, to his minute credit, at least questioned it, asserting I was still his cousin. Greg immediately dismissed the notion. Life is harsh. Furthermore, he would mortify us in front of Jessica's relatives. I reread that sentence twice. Mortify them, as if I were some unwanted stray dog who would spoil their sophisticated event. Adjacent to these emails were quotations for a $22,000 renovation for their master bathroom. Guess who they anticipated would finance that? I remained in my vehicle for a while after reviewing those emails, not sorrowful, merely utterly finished. Then, as if a final, pathetic jest from the cosmos, I received a text message from Jessica. Tyler informed me you have been disseminating falsehoods about his family. Please cease. They have been nothing but generous to you. Generous. I contemplated the word for an extended period. I did not reply. Instead, I initiated several calls, setting various arrangements in motion. The trust that had been sustaining their lifestyle was not as straightforward as simply terminating their access, but there existed lawful, thoroughly documented methods. I established a clear disengagement strategy after consulting with my financial advisor, ensuring all preparations were complete. However, Aunt Diane then telephoned, insisting I attend dinner once more, stating they needed to discuss something significant with me. Tyler and Jessica would be present, she added, as if that were intended as an enticement. They had momentous news. I understood precisely what I was walking into, yet I went nonetheless. It was time to witness their true character one final time. I arrived precisely at 6 o'clock in the evening. The first thing I observed was laborers installing an elaborate new chandelier in their entryway. Recall the home renovation I mentioned? Apparently, they had opted to commence early, naturally with my funds. Ethan, Diane beamed with feigned enthusiasm. Do not mind the disorder. We are merely undertaking a minor enhancement. You comprehend the situation. She paused. Well, perhaps you do not. I simply nodded and entered. The entire family was present, along with Jessica, all impeccably dressed as if for a formal occasion. Tyler had his arm encircling Jessica's waist. She scarcely met my gaze. Uncle Greg drew me aside before dinner. Listen, young man, we must have a serious discussion regarding your demeanor. You have been exhibiting jealousy, and it is causing discomfort for everyone. The sheer audacity of this man, clad in the golf club polo shirt I paid for, while lecturing me about my attitude. Dinner commenced. They had ordered expensive catering, charged to the family credit card, naturally. Then Aunt Diane clinked her glass, and Tyler rose, drawing Jessica to her feet. We have an announcement, he declared, grinning. Jessica and I are engaged. Everyone erupted in cheers. Jessica displayed a substantial diamond ring. My cousin, of all individuals, had managed to captivate the only woman I had cared for in years, after a mere 2 months of courtship. We are contemplating a destination wedding, Tyler continued. Perhaps Hawaii or the Bahamas, whatever you desire, darling. Diane cooed at Jessica. Only the finest for our new daughter-in-law. Jessica radiated happiness. You all have been so wonderful to me. Truly the family I always longed for. I took another mouthful of my food for which I was technically paying, and waited. Then Diane regarded me with a pretense of sympathy. Ethan, dear, I understand this may be challenging for you, but we believe it is best if you do not attend the engagement party and wedding. It would simply be awkward for Jessica. Tyler, at least, had the decency to appear uncomfortable. Jessica merely stared at her plate. The Williamsons will be attending the party, Uncle Greg added, and their daughter recently attained vice president status at her investment firm. We cannot have you appearing, recounting tales of your gas station employment. It would reflect poorly upon us. I took another bite of my food and smiled. Which gas station anecdotes would those be, Uncle Greg? The ones concerning my management of a multi-million-dollar trust, or the ones detailing how I have been covering your mortgage for 5 years? The room fell into an absolute hush. What are you speaking of? Aunt Diane snapped. I retrieved my phone and accessed my banking application. Shall we delve into the figures? Would you prefer to commence with the mortgage, the vehicles, or perhaps that splendid new chandelier that was just installed? Jason nervously laughed. What is he talking about, Mother? He is clearly disoriented. Aunt Diane quickly asserted. The house payments originate from the government assistance program following his parents' passing. There is no government program, I stated calmly. There never was. It has all been me, facilitated through the trust my parents established. Every single payment. Uncle Greg rose, his face crimson. Now you listen here. No, I interrupted him. You listen. For 5 years, I have paid your mortgage, your vehicles, your bills, your golf club membership, your vacations, everything. Tyler dropped his fork. That is not. What is he saying? Jessica gazed at me, her face blanching. Aunt Diane's complexion shifted from red to white. You are fabricating. You can barely afford fuel for that wretched vehicle of yours. I began presenting them with screenshots, bank statements, transfer records, every piece of evidence. That engagement ring on Jessica's finger? Charged to the family credit card last week, the one I settle. The Bahamas wedding they are planning? Best of luck with that. The bathroom renovation? I trust they secured a favorable deposit agreement. They erupted, all of them screaming, denying, issuing threats. Aunt Diane overturned her wine glass, staining her new tablecloth crimson. Uncle Greg continued to shout about legal action. Tyler attempted to explain to Jessica, who appeared on the verge of nausea. I remained seated, continuing to eat, allowing them to exhaust themselves. Finally, when their clamor subsided, I rose. Check your electronic mail tomorrow morning, all of you. Every detail will be comprehensively explained, including the 60-day notification for new payment arrangements. Aunt Diane lunged forward, seizing my arm. You cannot inflict this upon us. We are family. Family. I withdrew my arm. Family does not label family as worthless, exclude family from gatherings, or appropriate girlfriends, and then ridicule the relationship. I directed my gaze at Jessica. And you, little opportunist, savor the life they cannot genuinely afford. I hope that ring was worth it. I proceeded to the door, turning back one final time. Incidentally, that wretched vehicle of mine? Fully paid off. Unlike your vehicles, your residence, or any other possession you claim. I left them all standing there, screaming and weeping, entered my car, and drove home. Their mobile devices have been incessantly contacting mine since that evening. Text messages, phone calls, voicemails ranging from menacing to pleading to pledges of reform. Too late. All preparations were complete, documents were ready, legal counsel was on standby. The following morning, precisely at 9 a.m., I dispatched the electronic mail. Every single detail was meticulously presented in plain terms. 5 years of transactions, receipts, wire transfers, mortgage payments, credit card statements, and automobile loans. No embellishment, no elaboration, merely figures, stark, irrefutable figures. At the conclusion, an official declaration, all financial assistance would cease in 60 days. Then, I deactivated my phone. I did not linger, anticipating the repercussions. I retrieved my keys, drove across town to an unfamiliar coffee establishment, and remained there for 2 hours, savoring the finest espresso of my life. For the first time in years, I experienced a profound sense of liberation. When I reactivated my phone, the display nearly froze from the deluge of notifications. 63 missed calls, 214 text messages, 43 social media messages. They had definitively lost their composure. Aunt Diane was the first to arrive at my apartment. She did not even knock, simply began pounding on the door around noon. Ethan, open this door immediately. You cannot do this to us. I opened the door. She stormed in, mascara streaking, waving her phone displaying the email. This is a jest, is it not? This must be a jest. Her voice was sufficiently loud to alert my neighbors. I shrugged, barely glancing at her. Diane, tears do not cover mortgage payments. You should be aware of that by now. She appeared utterly bewildered. You have 60 days to arrange new financing for everything. I continued. We will be ruined. The mortgage, the vehicles, everything. How could you do this to family? Let us discuss family, I stated. Let us discuss labeling me as worthless, excluding me from gatherings, and your son appropriating the one positive aspect of my life. She instantly shifted her approach, weeping, attempting to embrace me. We were unaware. We are sorry. We can change. No, Aunt Diane, you cannot. The trust will be dissolved in 60 days. All support ceases. The mortgage, the car payments, the credit cards, all of it. It was then that Uncle Greg burst in. Apparently, she had messaged him my address. His face was flushed, veins prominent. You ungrateful little. He advanced aggressively toward me. Ill-advised movement. I stated calmly. One more step, and I will contact the authorities. Then the payments cease today instead of in 60 days. He froze, the gravity of the situation finally registering. Then my cousins arrived. Tyler appeared utterly stunned, as if his entire existence had just crumbled in real time. Jason was in a state of panic. What about Jessica? Tyler repeatedly questioned. What am I to inform her? The truth might be a suitable starting point, I remarked, leaning back, arms folded. That you are a deceiver who cannot sustain your own lifestyle, let alone hers. But the engagement, the ring, she is going to abandon me. His voice cracked. I smiled. Well, at least now you comprehend what it is like to have something taken from you. It is unpleasant, is it not? Tyler blinked rapidly, swallowing hard, his hands clenched into fists. He had no retort. The ensuing hours were utter pandemonium. Aunt Diane was weeping on my sofa. Uncle Greg was pacing, making calls to his golf club associates for loans. Tyler appeared to be experiencing a panic attack. Jason simply sat there, staring blankly. Then came a text message from Jessica. Is it true about the money? I did not even respond. I simply turned my phone toward Tyler and allowed him to see it. He glanced at his phone, then at me, defeated. What do I tell her? I do not care, I stated. It is no longer my concern. Then Aunt Diane attempted one final maneuver. Your parents would be ashamed of you. The room fell silent. I walked to my bedroom, returning with a folder. Inside were letters from my parents detailing precisely how the trust should be utilized for genuine family emergencies, for educational pursuits, for health-related matters, not for golf club memberships and luxury vacations. I permitted them to read in silence. Then I spoke. My parents dedicated their entire lives to constructing something genuine. They established this to assist family in need, not to finance parasites. You wish to discuss shame? They would be ashamed of you. Diane collapsed. This time, her sobbing was authentic. She barely made it back to her residence from my apartment before the repercussions began to unfold. The chandelier company contacted them regarding their overdue balance. Apparently, that elaborate imported piece of overpriced glass and metal they simply had to possess had not been fully paid for. The check bounced. The laborers arrived the following morning to dismantle it. Greg also received a call. His beloved golf club, the one where he masqueraded as a prominent businessman while selling insurance, revoked his membership. It turns out that when one fails to remit dues, one is not permitted to continue playing on their immaculate, exorbitantly priced greens. But the most significant collapse was Tyler's. His engagement to Jessica disintegrated when he was finally compelled to sit her down and confess that his affluence was nothing more than an illusion. Jessica, bless her heart, had evidently assumed that his life of first-class vacations and luxury vehicles stemmed from his accomplishments, not from a trust fund he had no knowledge of until its cessation. Consequently, the engagement celebration was canceled, and the destination wedding will never materialize. I learned all of this secondhand from Jason, who possessed the good sense to realize that perhaps I was not the antagonist in this narrative, unlike the others. Jason actually listened when I severed ties. He did not attempt to resist, did not plead or scream or threaten. He simply disappeared for a while. Meanwhile, Diane and Greg were frantically attempting to refinance their residence. But given their credit history, years of living like royalty while accumulating mountains of debt, no financial institution was willing to engage with them. 2 weeks later, I drove past their residence in my so-called wretched vehicle. Diane stood outside in a bathrobe, arms crossed, observing as laborers removed her cherished chandelier. She did not notice me. She was too preoccupied witnessing her world unravel. I felt no remorse, not even a trace, because while their dwelling was collapsing, I had finally relocated into my parents' former home, the one they inhabited before acquiring the larger property, the one that possessed genuine history, not merely serving as a display for fabricated status. I had purchased it outright, and now it was mine, free of mortgage, free of debt, free of parasites draining my resources. It has been 7 months since I delivered the decisive blow and distanced myself from the turmoil that once constituted my so-called family. 7 months since I ceased financially supporting individuals who treated me with utter disdain, and it feels undeniably gratifying. I resigned from the gas station position. No more scanning lottery tickets for desperate gamblers or managing intoxicated simpletons at 2 in the morning. The last time I clocked out, I did not even glance back. That establishment was never intended as a permanent fixture. It was merely a means to occupy my time while my funds sustained the dependence. But now that they were severed, now that I was no longer their personal ATM, I possessed alternatives. So, I pursued one. For years, I had demonstrated proficiency with automobiles. My father used to instruct me as a child on how to perform oil changes, replace brake pads, and diagnose engine malfunctions. It was never merely a pastime. I enjoyed it, working with my hands, resolving issues, restoring functionality. Consequently, I allocated the remaining funds from the trust, the money I was no longer squandering on ungrateful individuals, and invested it in something tangible. I inaugurated my own automotive repair facility. I named it Honest Mechanic, because if there was one truth I had gleaned from my family, it was the widespread weariness of deceit. I commenced with just myself, a single individual, a rented garage, a pair of used lifts, and a sign that barely fit above the entrance. Within 2 months, I was inundated with work. Word spread. People appreciated a mechanic who was not intent on exploiting them. By the 4th month, I had 2 additional employees, and we were generating profit. My financial advisor even informed me it was uncommon for a nascent business to achieve profitability with such rapidity. Then came Vanessa. I required someone to manage the front desk, scheduling appointments, overseeing orders, ensuring I did not waste time dealing with individuals who were oblivious to their vehicle's need for an oil change. I employed Vanessa, and let me assure you, this woman operates the establishment with the efficiency of a chief executive. She is in her mid-20s, exceptionally astute, and yes, I will not dissemble, strikingly attractive. But unlike Jessica, she does not require a financially secure partner to feel significant. Customers adore her, my employees heed her, and she does not fawn over me or attempt to flirt her way into an effortless existence. She respects me. When she addresses me, it is as one professional to another. I am not asserting romantic interest, but if I were, at least this time it would be with someone who genuinely recognized my intrinsic worth before any monetary considerations. Now, each morning, I awaken, drive to my own enterprise, and dedicate the day to working on vehicles, engaging in genuine labor. Meanwhile, my family, they continue to experience decline. Uncle Greg was the first to lose his residence. They were unable to refinance, unable to catch up on payments, and the bank was not in the business of extending second chances to individuals who had squandered every penny attempting to impress strangers. Last I heard, he is employed as a sales associate at a hardware store. I actually encountered him once while procuring supplies for the shop. He saw me, froze, then turned and walked in the opposite direction. Diane, her pride suffered the most severe blow. She was so accustomed to being the matriarch of her small domain, the impeccably dressed, meticulously groomed lady of the house. Now, she is employed as a receptionist at a dental office. No more leisurely brunches, no more extravagant shopping excursions. She commutes to work by bus. I occasionally observe her at the stop when I drive past. She keeps her head lowered. Jason, I will commend him. He genuinely perceived this as a wake-up call. He re-enrolled in educational pursuits, working towards an associate's degree in accounting. He even sent me a text message a few months ago. You were correct about everything. I apologize. I did not respond, not due to animosity, but because I am not yet prepared for such reconciliation. Then there is Tyler. He experienced the most profound fall of them all. It turns out that when one dedicates years to misrepresenting one's status, feigning influential connections, and flaunting wealth that was never truly one's own, people notice when the financial resources dissipate. His legal firm investigated his client roster and discovered that half of it was fabricated. They terminated his employment. Now, he is bartending downtown, residing in a minuscule apartment with 2 housemates. The BMW he once showcased was repossessed 3 months after I ceased financial support. Oh, and Jessica ended their relationship immediately after the engagement celebration was canceled. Apparently, she was not interested in matrimonial vows that encompassed for richer or poorer. I heard she relocated back in with her parents. Perhaps Tyler was not such an improvement after all. He no longer posts on social media. The only contact I have received has been a Christmas card from Diane and a birthday text from Jason. That is all. Some relationships are simply not worth preserving. However, there was one individual who did attempt to return, Jessica. 2 months after everything transpired, she entered my shop as if nothing had occurred, without warning, without a text message, simply strolling in as if she still held a place in my life. She glanced around, taking in her surroundings. Your establishment appears impressive. I continued working, not even looking up. I wished to converse, perhaps elucidate my perspective. That prompted me to look at her. No designer attire, no ostentatious jewelry, merely jeans, a t-shirt, and a nervous expression. Your perspective? I chuckled. You abandoned me after a single dinner, dated my cousin, became engaged to him in record time, and then ceased all communication. Which aspect requires clarification? She swallowed hard. I made an error. No kidding, I stated. Tyler seemed so successful, so self-assured. Your family made you appear to lack ambition, to have no future. I was foolish and superficial. Indeed, you were, I affirmed. She blinked, likely anticipating me to offer solace, to say, no, it is acceptable. I comprehend. I did not. I miss you, she attempted, the way things were before. Simple dates, genuine conversations, just us. You miss me now that you are aware I possess financial resources. I laughed. That is unjust, she retorted. I was unaware of any of that. But you knew me, I stated, and that should have been sufficient. Her eyes welled up, a calculated display, not genuine. Can we simply begin anew? Her voice was cautious, as if she knew the answer but hoped I would prove her wrong. Before I could respond, Vanessa poked her head in from the office. Hey, boss, just a heads up, the client with the Mustang is here. Would you like me to handle it? Jessica's expression shifted. She had not noticed Vanessa previously, and the instant she did, she realized this was no longer a dilapidated gas station. This was not the impoverished, desperate Ethan. I was not waiting, hoping for her approval. I wiped my hands on a cloth and straightened up. No, I do not engage in charity cases, Jessica, not even for old times' sake. Her confident little smirk faltered. She glanced at Vanessa, then back at me, likely realizing she had already been superseded by someone more intelligent, more attractive, and genuinely loyal. You do not mean that, she murmured. I laughed, sharp and brief. Yes, I do. She swallowed hard. For the first time ever, Jessica was speechless. So that is it, she whispered. Just like that. Just like that. I did not await any further words from her. I simply turned to Vanessa. Attend to the Mustang client. Let us ensure that tune-up is completed by noon. Vanessa nodded, smirking as she glanced at Jessica before departing. Jessica turned, her posture rigid, and exited the door. I did not observe her departure. I had more important matters to attend to. The most significant lesson I absorbed: do not immolate yourself to provide warmth for others. Now, each morning, I awaken, enter my own establishment, drive home to my own residence, and make my own decisions, and it feels remarkably fulfilling. Since many inquiries have been made, yes, I am genuinely content now, not in that artificial social media manner, but in that quiet state of satisfaction where one retires feeling positive about one's choices. It required time to reach this point, but it was worthwhile. To the individual who inquired if I would assist my family if they were literally on the verge of homelessness, I cannot say. That is a hypothetical situation I will address if and when it arises, but it would be accompanied by very clear boundaries.